Hello, this is Wicked Shrapnel, and welcome to episode 1 of How to Be a Master Electrician with Absolutely No Training. So, today, I would like to put a plug in right here, and I did not do this. Someone else did this, honestly. I had a handyman over that was doing like some drywall stuff for me and fixing up my bathroom. He cut this, and there's no stud there, and it's not big enough. He was going to put in one of these plastic boxes. That wouldn't work. Okay, he was definitely not a master electrician, and neither am I. But I did watch some videos, and I took a class in like 1994 on electricity in high school. So, like, I'm pretty much a professional. So this is the box that we need, and what did I do with the outlet? Anyway, it's going to go right in there. There's a stud right here, and just used a stud finder, and it's most likely near the edge. It might actually be on both sides. Yeah, there's a stud on both sides of these. So pick the side. This one's closer to where I want the charger to go, so I'm going to put the box here. And I'm going to have to knock out one of these little knockouts. Let's try to do that. Step 1. And we need to knock out the bigger side of it too. That's probably not going to be easy. There we go. How hard could it be? So, why I'm doing this is I called some electricians in my area to ask how much it would be to put an outlet right here below my breaker box. I was expecting it to be like, $200, something like that. And I got quotes of, the cheapest quote was $1,500. And then 2 other quotes were more than that, like $1,700, $2,200. And I'm like, what? Like, that just seems ridiculous. That's way too much money. How hard can it be? It's just running some wires, So I got on Amazon and bought most of the stuff I need on Amazon. Got this wire, which is 6 gauge, and it's 6-3 wire. It's similar to Romex. I think it's like generic Romex, but there's 3 6-gauge wires in there, 2 hot, 1 neutral, and then a ground wire. And that's what we need. And right now this panel is hot. So we're not going to work in that panel while it's hot, because I am stupid, but I'm not that stupid. So I guess let's go out and look at the main box. So in your house, you may just have one box where the power from the street is coming directly like into your basement or something. But with me, this is a sub panel. So there's a box on the outside of the house that's the main panel, and this is just coming off of one of the breakers in the main panel. So we have to go out to the side of the house and turn that off before we start touching anything in here. And there's the 2 like live wires. Those are 2 hots. White's the neutral, and then all those bare copper wires, those are your ground wires. Now you know. All right, let's go look at the main breaker. All right, so here's our main panel. You might identify it from your little electric meter here. It's coming in through the ground up into this panel. Slide this little thing over. There, got it open. So we have 200 amp coming into the box, and I did have a 60 amp here, but in turning the breakers on and off, this one actually halfway died, and it was only powering like 1 hot to the sub panel. So I'm gonna turn all these off. Turn that main one off. And you really shouldn't get into this main panel. Unless you're a master electrician like myself. But if you do, here's how you do it. Don't lose these screws. And these gloves are not rated for high voltage. It would not protect you if you touched a live wire, but better than nothing, and it looks good for YouTube. All right. So, when we're dealing with electricity, you want to think of it like water. Water that can shock and kill you. So the water is flowing through here, and those two at the top, those are where it's coming in. So those are still live. You do not want to touch those two connectors where it's coming into the house. I would never touch those. And then this is your big neutral ground wire. And so all the breakers now are dead. This is off. So the water is not flowing past that breaker. And this is a 50 amp breaker that I put. There was a 60 amp one on there and it halfway died. So I had already bought this 50 amp breaker. This is what is going to go onto my outlet. And then I got a 100 amp breaker that I'm going to replace it with. There was a 60 amp in there. Now there's a 100 amp. And I want to see if this wire has writing on it. It does not. So I'm going to get a digital caliper and measure this wire. So this wire is running to the sub panel. So there's no electricity going through this wire. As we've talked about, the water is flowing here, and it would normally come off of the panel here and then go through these wires to the sub panel. So these are just dead wires at the moment. So I'm gonna get a digital caliper and measure how thick the wire is. I'm guessing it's like 3 gauge, but it could be 4 gauge. So that's why I want to measure it, because we want to make sure that this wire could handle 100 amps if it had to. And let me go get my gauge. All right, so I got my gauge, just a little digital caliper. I'm gonna measure in millimeters. And it is 5 millimeters. So that means it is 4 gauge wire. And I believe it is the THWN. So it should be rated for like up to 95 amps. And I'm putting a 100 amp fuse on it, or breaker. So it's not that far off. I'm probably never gonna get up to 95 amps anyway. It's good enough, says this master electrician. So we just gotta put our wires in. I got this special torque wrench, and it gives you how many pounds of torque are needed. And it says between a 40 and 125 amp, you need 50 pounds per inch torque. So I set this torque wrench to 50 pounds. And then I put my wires in here, tighten it down until your wrench clicks. And I'm gonna wiggle it. Since this is like stranded wire, it can like come loose. Wiggle it around a little bit, and I'm gonna torque it one more time. There we go. 50 pounds of torque. Put the other one in. So these are both 2 hot wires. They will be when I turn the breaker on. Not right now. You could stick your tongue on them right now if you wanted to. So there we go. So now we know it is torqued down exactly to specifications. Now we're gonna put it back in the box. go in the box. Don't you want to go to your home? All right. So we got a 100-amp breaker in there, and then all these other ones probably go into like the air conditioner and dryer and stuff. And put our screws back in. Don't really need gloves anymore. I mean, I didn't need them in the first place. I just figured people would be like, "Yeah, I'll be wearing gloves like a shrapnel." And those gloves wouldn't do anything. All right, and we're gonna leave this all off for now while we go work on our box in the inside. So I'll meet you in there. All right, so now we're back in the garage, and this whole panel is dead because the breaker outside that feeds it is dead. And I did turn all these breakers off before I went out there and turned this off. And I had moved this one around when I was troubleshooting why some weren't coming on, because one of these hots didn't have power, so only like half of the breakers, every other breaker was on. So that's how I figured that out. So now I put these little coupling rings on there, and this is gonna like go through the hole, and we'll be able to screw the little nut on and tighten it down so that these wires don't move around. And what I did was I just held it up to the wall, and I figure I need about 6 inches or so to come out of the wall. So I just kind of eyeballed it, and then I stretched it up the wall and figured somewhere close there, that's where this one's going to need to go. Then we got plenty of wire to go up into the panel. So let's just feed it up there now. How hard could it be? Then you can take a screwdriver, hammer, just hit those little notches to tighten it up. All right, it's tight as a drum. And we got the other one hanging out down here. I guess let's put our box on. It's on there good enough at the moment. And now I need to screw my box in. All right, so I went in the house and flipped the light switch on to find the screws, and they weren't there. The light wasn't there. I don't know what's going on. All right, let's try to line this up the best we can. There we go. And I got roofing screws, so that should be good enough. I think that's part of the electric code. It just says, you know, whatever you got laying around the house that you could use, it's good enough. All right, I'm sweating. Well, it's very important to have the electricity turned off if you're sweating profusely. All right, I'm gonna cut the wire about here. All right, so red and black, it's gonna be our hots. Go into the breaker. You got this ground wire. Let me see if I can give you guys a little closer look. There you go. Now you guys can see what's going on. So this is all of our ground wires. And I'm just gonna pick one up in here somewhere. It's open. That's as tight as I can make it. All right, now let's do our neutral. That's gonna go over here. Yep, move some more. So that's tight. Now we just need these two guys. And they're gonna go in our 50 amp breaker. I'll leave myself like a little loop. All right, so I got my wires stripped back there, ready to go in the breaker. Now we're gonna work on this guy down here. So, code says I'm supposed to ground this box. Normally you would use like a little pigtail. I don't have a pigtail, so I'm gonna improvise. And I had to buy a whole box of these stupid grounding screws because the box didn't come with one. So what I'm gonna do, start the screw in this little hole right here. That's where it goes. I'm gonna wrap it around there. Now it's grounded. Can't tell me it's not. Can't tell me that's not grounded. Now I'm gonna have to cut these off pretty. All right, so I got some tin snips. And I'm gonna go about 6 inches from the wall. That makes it a lot easier. Easy peasy. And I looked it up, and the NEMA 1450 says like 70 pounds of torque on these outlets. So that's a lot of torque. My torque screwdriver goes, that's like the max it could do. I'm not even sure if I can make it torque that high. There we go. So both of our hots go on each side here. Doesn't really matter. Looks like red's over here. That's probably where red wants to go. I can't make it click. It's probably like 69 pounds. If I was guessing. All right, let's get our other hot in. You get out of the way, neutral. You're not even ready to party. Hey, here's my handyman guy. He's the one that cut this hole. He'll tell you. Yeah, man. I haven't not died yet. Making a video on how to be an electrician without any training. All right, sweet. I just have to flip everything around, get it in the freaking box. Oh, you know what I forgot? Put this plate on. These aren't the most malleable wires in the world. All right, so I found the screws. They're in the outlet box. Came in. Who would have thought to look there? Why would they hide them there? Here we go. This is definitely the hardest part of the whole project, putting the faceplate on. This should really only be done by a professional. Hole's not big enough. But this is like a industrial strength 1450, so it's not normal little. I'll have to get it. Separate. I'll have to get a bigger one. So back up here on the fun side, I'm gonna put our breaker in. 40 pounds. All right, it's as tight as I can make it. Here we go. So now, I'm gonna go out to the outside panel. Stand back from the panel in case it explodes. We'll turn the top on and flip these on. And this is our sub panel. Didn't trip, that's good. Lock the panel back up. Now our sub panel is hot. Sub panel is hot. Well, turn the main power on out there. We have no power in here, but I do have power to my other things that are coming off different breakers out there, like my dryer works. So that means that new breaker that I got is now working. So temporarily, I'm gonna go turn that breaker back off, and I'm gonna put this 50 amp one back out there until I can get another breaker. All right, so I got my lights back on, but I had to put that 50 amp fuse back out there. So this 100 amper that I got, it doesn't seem to be doing the trick. I don't know if there's some secret button you gotta push. I'm gonna turn it on, but it doesn't work. So maybe I'll get just a lower one. I mean, a 60 was in there. Maybe I can go up to an 80. I mean, it's supposed to be rated to like 95, but oh, look at that! I do have lights. But to be continued. We're almost there though. I mean, that looks safe. Whatever you do, don't touch that wire. If you touch it real quick, it won't shock you. I'm just kidding. I'm not faster than lightning. That's just the wire that's going down to this outlet. So there's no way electricity could come through there. Remember, it's like water. It flows in from the street. Now these wires up here, those two will bite you. Those two will bite you. Don't touch those wires. Those will bite you. All right, to be continued. All right, so I just put the 100 amp breaker in. I got a new one. I went to Home Depot. I actually got a name brand one instead of a knockoff one off Amazon. And let's see if we got power. I could do a little. That means there's power there. Flip these on. Get the lights. Here, things coming on. Now we're gonna flip this one and see if our whole house blows up. Here we go, there's a new one. All right, got the Tesla charger. Let's see if I blow up my car. It's charging. 32 amps. Booyah. 244 volts, 3 hours and 40 minutes remaining. So that's the maximum charge limit that I can get at home. And I did it all myself. Now we'll just see if my house catches on fire. So let me show you. So the amp that I bought before, it said it was Eaton compatible, but this one's actually a actual Eaton. So there we go. All locked back up. So there we go. I did it myself. How to be an electrician with no training. Oh, I got a little bit more slack. Nice. So this faceplate didn't fit, so I gotta get a new faceplate. And I got some stuff to patch up this hole. Maybe I'll make a little video on how to patch up a big hole. And I gotta put that panel back on. But other than that, the job is done. Easy peasy. And that breaker was $98 at Home Depot, so I probably ended up spending about $200 on stuff, because I did get, one thing to note is, like on Amazon, you could find like these outlets for like $10, but those are cheap. You don't want those. You want like a commercial grade 1450 outlet. So that one is a Bryant, and I think it was about 50 bucks, 50 or 60 bucks. So that's, you know, more expensive. Like you could do this project like cheap. I've saw videos on YouTube. Do it. I had a charger for $50, but it's using like cheap grade stuff. You don't want to use cheap grade stuff. I did cheap out on that breaker and it didn't work, so I learned my lesson there. I'll have to return that breaker. Like the one that I bought was like 50 some dollars, and the real name brand one was $98. So, you know, buy the good stuff. You get what you pay for. So it's probably about $200 in stuff. And I did buy some tools that I would not normally have, so it might be, counting for the tools, maybe 300 bucks. Still, that's better than $1,500 that the electricians wanted to charge me. So I think it's good. All you electricians out there, let me know how I did. People were already commenting on how sloppy the job was already, so I couldn't do much worse. But I think I did an okay job for someone that only took an electric class in 1994 in high school. And it's charging, it's working, all the rest of my lights are on. So that's how you do it. I would not recommend doing this yourself. Hire a professional and pay them thousands of dollars to do it. Don't you do it. That's what everyone told me on Facebook. Don't do it. All right, one last little update before I go. Got the cover back on. Had to knock out the little metal things for my new thing. Could label it, but looks good in there. And I got the face plate, which I cracked when I screwed it in. Very professional, but I mean, it covers it, so it's good enough. That's up to my code. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Take it easy.